McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions. Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Do you think there should be a cut-off age for driving? Now, we've spoken about this in the show many times before. Many people spoke about how they felt about older drivers and they shouldn't be driving, believing they're a danger in the roads. But take a listen to this email, right? Hi, Niall. I was recently in a minor collision. Thankfully, it wasn't too serious and nobody was hurt. There was a bit of damage done to my car, but the man who hit me was 72 years of age. When he got out of the car to assess the damage, I could see that he was quite frail looking. He struggled walking. And without sounding insulting, he was very old looking. Well, he was 72, fairness. I felt sorry for him. I didn't make too much of a big deal about it, about the car, once everything was okay and he was okay. But it got me thinking that the man should not be driving a car. He rear-ended me, and I can only assume his reaction time and response wasn't quick enough, so he got distracted while driving. Maybe you could talk about elderly drivers at your show. I don't want to seem insensitive, but I believe there should be a cut-off age for driving, because it was clear to me that this man was dangerous on the roads. Actually, can I just point out, he was probably more dangerous than somebody who had a few pints. Okay, by the way, I'll accept that from a scientific point of view. But the difference is, you don't intentionally get old. You intentionally drink. So, you know what I mean? There are people who have inadequacies. There are people who are cleverer than others. There are people who are better drivers than others. That doesn't mean we should ban the people who are just bad drivers or not as good. Or there are people who, naturally have better reaction times, better coordination. But we shouldn't ban those who don't. So you're not making sense when you say, statistically, you were right. Somebody drinking 3 or 4 pints is probably not as bad as somebody who's 90 years of age and has bad eyesight, maybe, or not great eyesight and slow reaction time. But then again, you're not going to ban the person from driving just for being old, but you can ban the person for making a conscious decision to drink. There's a kind of difference. But I understand the point you're making. Now, in Ireland, a person's age determines the driver licence term they can apply for. But what do you think of the person's message? For anyone, by the way, applies for a licence from the age of 60 to 66, the licence will expire when they reach the age of 70. Drivers aged between 67 and 69 who are granted a licence will only have it for 3 years. After that, it's 1 year at a time. You have to go to your GP. Now, if you know your GP, you'll probably just get your thing stamped anyway. Anyway, the point is, she's saying is that once you're over the age of 70, you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car, generally speaking. Is she right? It's a woman who wrote it, by the way. Should you be banned from driving over the age of 70? After all, you do get free public transport. Pauline, you're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Pauline?
Good evening, Niall. I think you deliberately rang me on this subject, but anyway.
What? Here, don't blame me. Blame Jonathan Mandel outside, my producer. That's Jonathan.
I was speaking to him. I had a laugh.
He's a lovely guy.
He's lovely. And the little girl, the young girl.
Zoe. Yeah. She's quite tall, actually,
so
Zoe.
Come here, I want to ask you something, Niall. What was that about not being allowed to drive your car? I just caught the tail end of the news.
What? About driving your... Oh, you can... Oh, yeah, sorry, that was in the news there. You're not allowed to drive your car around College Green anymore. It's a traffic-free zone.
That's the new World Order, World Economic Forum.
Oh, right, the whole lot. New Order, World Economic Forum, bring them all in there, yeah.
That's the 15-minute cities, Niall. You won't be allowed outside.
Oh, I know. By the way, I don't care who's responsible for it, but I can tell you now, you're absolutely right, Pauline. Within the next 10 years, you will not be allowed to drive in the city. Yeah.
And your car won't bring you any further than 15 minutes outside of your city.
Probably.
Because it would be electronic. So say no to it, people.
Say no.
Say no.
No. Yeah, I agree with you. I'll drive my damn car where I like to drive it. I don't care.
Exactly.
And you know what? I was looking at changing my car. Now, not that I have the money to do it at the moment, but I might get something to the same value. But I'm looking at changing it. And I looked at a lovely car the other day, and it was a 3-litre diesel. And I said to myself, I don't care.
Good. Because when they all plug in their electric ones, there's no new power plants being built, people.
But can I point out in relation to electric cars, right? The whole thing is a bit of a myth. Because realistically, when you see, and we heard the story one night from the man who'd written the book, that I said, his name eludes me now, and he went over to do a report and documentary on the kids who were working as slaves, literally, for like $1 a week. Absolutely, yes. the raw materials for the batteries. But what I'm saying is, for these cars to make up for the so-called emissions that diesel or petrol cars put out, takes 100,000 miles for them to balance out to break even in relation to carbon emissions, right? So I don't buy into it. Don't get me wrong. I had a loan of 3 electric cars, and they're fun to drive. I'm not going to lie to you. They're fun to drive.
Rubbish. And the kids are mine for whatever goes into the batteries, and it takes the power of 2 houses.
But you know what? I love the sound of it. I love the sound of an engine, Pauline.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing...
Okay, getting back to the porn, Pauline. That's what you called.
This on the cars. Do you know how much it costs to replace the batteries of these cars?
Oh, I know, between 10 and 15,000. Yeah.
Ultimately, what they want you all is off the road and within a 15-minute radius of your home.
Now, people do... Well, now, hang on. Now, people do say that about the batteries, right? That, you know, it costs maybe 10 grand to replace the battery in a car, right? But the battery, like, for example, the new Tesla, the battery is guaranteed for 10 years or whatever it is, right? Okay, so here's the thing. You know, on an average car, your engine will only last 10 years anyway. And you'd have to replace an engine. An engine for a modern car nowadays is 7,000 to 10,000. So, I mean, realistically, there's not a huge difference in that. And when you think about the money with an electric car, and I know I sound like I'm promoting them, you know, there is no service costs, apart from, you know, your brakes, your tyres and your windscreen wipers. There's no service cost. So there is a saving. There is a saving to be made, but I don't think it's a saving to the planet. I think that's nonsense. Okay, sorry, Pauline.
The whole thing about the planet is nonsense. It's a load of cost.
Well, yeah. Some of it I buy into it. Most of it I don't.
Yeah. There are enough
Pauline, we're going off on a tangent.
There are plants and forests on this planet to omit anything that shouldn't be here. So people need to wake up.
Yeah, well, we shouldn't be knocking down trees, mind you. But however, yeah, we should leave the old trees alone. I went out yesterday. Actually, we went out for a wander and went walking out through a forest, and it was absolutely beautiful. The silence and the smell of the forest, and it was a beautiful sunny day too. It was just such a lovely day, and it was just such a nice feeling that the world is going on around you, but you're in that little cocoon of a forest. Anyway, I'm now meandering. Pauline, back to porn.
Yeah, porn. It wouldn't be in my household.
Right, okay. So what should this woman do? She came down the stairs. She goes to bed. He said, you're all right, love. I'll just stay down here and watch the telly for a while. So she nips down for a glass of water an hour later, catches him, pants down around his ankles, and he's watching porn. How do you think she should react to that?
She should start opening the window and ask him to pick one, because it wouldn't happen in my house.
Would it not?
No way. I wouldn't have porn in my home or in my relationship. Absolutely not. No, that's just, sometimes, like I say to you, I think you deliberately ring me. You know that I'm born again Christian. I read the Bible, understand the Bible, believe the Bible, and to the best of my ability, obey it. Sexual immorality will destroy your relationship. You might think it's, I don't know, happy going for the two of you at the beginning. But I guarantee you, I'm telling you what the Word of God says. You don't open the door to Satan in any way in your life. And
is masturbation the work of the devil?
I'm not really sure about that, Niall. I haven't really.
No, I'm genuinely asking that, by the way. I'm not trying to be patronising.
Well, the Bible says you're sinning against yourself, that your body is the temple of the Spirit of God.
Well, then what do you say then? Pauline, and I don't want to have a go at your religion. I respect your religion. I respect your belief in religion, by the way. I don't have to respect your religion to respect your belief in it, right? But
I don't have a religion.
Well, okay, we had this argument before. Okay, your belief in spirituality, a relationship with God. Okay, so in relation to your relationship with God, as far as the Bible is concerned, the only time you should really be having sex is for procreation. Now, realistically, most people, 99% of people, don't have sex for procreation. That's a benefit to it when people reproduce on a regular basis, obviously. But we have seen a decline in the population over the last, 50 years in particular, where people are only having, on average, 2 children. So
stop starting jabs and stop jabbing your kids. Where do you think?
No, wait. Let me finish what I'm going to say. So the point is, people are having sex. They haven't reduced the amount of sex they're having in the last 50 years. So they're having sex for enjoyment, for pleasure, for intimacy, and not to reproduce a child. So is there anything wrong with that?
No, there's nothing. If you're with the marriage, but not outside of the marriage, people don't realise. If you knew what the Bible teaches. It teaches here, let me explain one to you. When you have sex with somebody according to the Bible, you become one spirit as such. Your spirits join. When you sleep around Tom, Dick, Harry. Now you might not believe this. Every time you have sex with somebody, you create a soul tie with them. You inherit 4 generations back whatever curses or blessings they have in their life, because it goes to 4 generations. And if people understood this, they would stop behaving in a promiscuous way, because that's what the Word of God says. It's to protect us that He says, don't do this.
Mm.
And I bet you didn't know that one.
But most people are good people. And yet, statistically, most people, and I don't want to be rude about it, but most people masturbate. So most people are promiscuous with themselves, or they're promiscuous with their partners. So most people do that, and most people use contraception, which again is against the Bible teaches not to use contraception. Although the Pope himself said that contraception was okay, but most people.
The Pope says a lot of things.
I know he does. Yeah, I know.
Don't mind the Pope. He's misleading. He's misleading all of the Roman Catholics in the world. He's going to christen the aliens when they come.
But should people not be using contraception?
No, they're not supposed to use contraception. Every baby, every child is innocent. They're supposed to be born
but isn't it? But aren't we glad?
They're supposed to be born.
We'd be overrun with babies.
They're supposed to be born within the protection of a unified family. That's the mother.
But look what happened 70 or 80 years ago when people didn't use contraception and they all had 7 and 10 kids in a family. And sadly, a lot of those kids died because they didn't have the money to look after them. Is that the will of that's the will of God, I suppose, is it? I don't know.
No,
it's meant to be
the will of God. No, I can't really hear you, so I can't.
No, I'm just saying, is that the will of God? Like, you know what I mean? That if you have too many children and you can't afford to feed them, that they just die.
No, it's the father's responsibility to provide for his children, and God's responsibility to provide for us. That is what I'm telling you. What the Bible says.
That's a lot of pressure on men.
Go forth and create. Go forth and produce.
Go forth and multiply. Yeah.
And multiply. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you think you know your Bible? I know it better than you do. Sorry.
Good man, now.
Yeah. I remember that line. I do remember that line from school.
Go forth and multiply. Well, you've done a bit of it yourself, so you do understand.
Yeah, well,
go forth and multiply.
I think that's what we mates used to say when you're heading off to Tamango on a Saturday night. Go forth and multiply. You know what I mean? So,
and take dominion over the earth. And stop putting up these rules and regulations. You can drive here and you can walk there and you get locked up in your house and you'll stay in it for 2 weeks and you'll take this job and you'll take that job. People need to wake up and cop on. Giving away all your liberties. Continue to allow this to happen. There'll come a day when you won't have any.
What do you make of the guy that was on the air just before the news there? You mightn't have heard him, Pauline, but he said he said his wife is pregnant. She's in the 3rd trimester. So obviously she's finding it uncomfortable to have sex and stuff like that. So he would masturbate 3 or 4 times a day.
No, I don't want to talk about that. Okay?
No, I'm only asking, is that sinful? Is that considered sinful?
No, I don't want to discuss that. I told you what my take is.
Okay.
Okay.
No. Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm not getting
that's okay. No, I know I won't get you into a conversation that you don't want to get into.
Not on that subject, thank you.
Okay.
What goes on between a married couple is their own business, and I don't want to discuss my thoughts about that because it would be within the confines of a marriage or a relationship. So that's
their business. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Pauline, we may not always agree, but you know what? It's lovely talking to you because you're a breath of fresh air.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. And by the way, you mightn't think this, but I actually do have very good morals.
I know you have.
Yeah.
I know that you have.
Yeah.
And you have boundaries. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I know that from listening to you.
Thanks, Pauline. Pauline, you have a nice sleep. Good night.
Thank you.
See you, bye. Let me go to Eamon. Eamon, how you doing? You're in Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Eamon?
I know, not too bad.
Good, getting back to drivers. So I asked you before the break, should there be a cut-off point for people driving? Because this woman had written the email about the accident, the tip she had. And she said the old man in his 70s, she said she didn't believe he should be on the road driving a car. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should lower the age to drive. So you should be allowed to drive at 16, and then there should be a cut-off. At a certain age, let's say 65.
65? That only gives me 5 more years, Eamon.
No. See, at 65, you have to go and complete, let's say, a competency test.
Right.
I can't even say the word right. But,
competency. Yeah, you can't even say the word. I can, and I'm 60. I'm nearly 60, but go on, yeah.
That's shown.
Yeah.
But no, you should have to go do a test to show that you're competent at driving.
Right.
And let's say that lasts for maybe, 10 years. Then when you're 75, you go back, you do another one. And if you're not competent, then you should be off the road. Because I was in a crash personally years ago, and it was an old woman who crashed into me. Now, I don't even know her age, but she was quite old. And, it was her fault. And it was just stupid. But I'm not targeting old women drivers or anything, but that's just my experience.
Yeah, she made a mistake. You believe she made a mistake? Yeah, because she wasn't focused or concentrating. By the way, my only ever real accident was when I was starting to drive first. I was only 18, 19. I think my dad's car was written off at an intersection because somebody turned in front of me. And I always remember when I get out of the car, there was an old man driving the car that I had hit. He had crossed the intersection. It was his fault. Although damage was all paid for, thankfully. Otherwise, my father would have killed me. But anyway, yeah. But in saying that, thankfully he wasn't badly injured. He had a bit of a bruise and a bit of blood on his head where he's hit his head off the side window. But I always remember when I get out of the car, I was in an awful state. I was panicking. I had been given a lift home to a mate, and he got out of the car, and I'd say he was 80, and he said to me, and we were down on the coast road near Fairview, right? And he said to me, Clontarf, where's me wife? And I immediately looked at the other side of the car, which was a mess, and the door was all hanging off. And I went, Jesus, his wife has gone over the wall. that's all I could think of. Because he kept saying, where's me wife? Where's me wife? And I go, I don't know. Where's your wife? And he was wondering, and God bless him, he was a bit dazed. I genuinely thought I'd propelled his wife out of the car and over the coast road wall. And then eventually I said to him, where is your wife? She's at home. Will someone ring her? And I went, stop. I said, I thought your missus had gone over the wall. I was looking for this woman somewhere on the road or anywhere.
He was only pretending to be dazed. He was
but no, I understand what you're saying, but it would be awful, Eamon. I'm 59. I'm nearly 60, right? I feel I'm just as competent now as I was when I was 35. How old are you, Eamon?
I'm 34.
See, you wouldn't be saying this, Eamon, if you were 59. Do you know what I mean?
Not.
You'd be on the air promoting the elderly. You know what I mean? But I mean, and you're right. There are some 70-year-olds who are completely incompetent, and it's just natural that as we get older, we slow down without a shadow of a doubt. That's just natural. It's the aging process. Our reaction time slows down. But not everybody. I know 80-year-olds who are very competent and better drivers than some 30-year-olds.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose when you do your driving test in Ireland, most people are probably, 18, 20-ish when they get their licence.
Yeah, I did a driving test 3 years ago. Myself and my producer, for the fun, we decided we'd do the driving test again. We both failed.
Oh, yeah? Did you get a new licence or did you lose it? Or
No. We just did it for fun. We had the person who does the driving test challenge the two of us to do the test again. Now, obviously I got my licence 35, 40 years ago. But both of us, now Helena at the time, my producer, was a bit younger than me. She was only in her early 20s. She mounted the footpath and I stopped the car, because I hadn't driven a car with gears in quite some time. I drive automatics all the time now. And my car cut out in the middle of an intersection. So both of us failed.
Yes, you mean me personally, I failed my test 3 times. I passed on the 4th time. But they're for stupid things like, not looking in, well, not they're not stupid if you're driving a car, obviously, but not checking the mirrors. I actually forgot to indicate in one of them when I was taking off. You pull in and do like a turnabout on the road.
Oh, yeah,
I never indicated on that. But obviously I learned from that, and now I'm a very competent driver. But even saying that, no, I was in, down Cork, there was a big tunnel on the road up to Dublin. The road's a mess there at the moment anyway. But I left an old man go out in front of me and keep it up the hand to do to me. And I was like, Jesus, this is great. I'm a great person. Next thing, he just cuts across the lane in front of me and
nearly killed you.
He nearly clipped the car, yeah. He nearly killed me. But obviously,
so you believe it's kind of automatic when you get to 65, you should have... Well, by the way, when you do... Here's the rules in Ireland, okay? For anyone who applies for a licence from 60 to 66, the licence will expire when you get to 70, right? So my licence is due to expire in 2 years. When I get my next one, it'll only be valid till I'm 70. When you get to 67 or to 69 and you're granted a licence, it's only going to be for 3 years. And every year after that, you have to apply for a licence once a year. So you have to get a certificate of fitness from a GP. Now, that doesn't mean you're competent. It just means you've good eyesight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you believe over the age of 70, boom, gone.
Yeah.
off the road.
You go into your competency test, and if you're not competent, then off the road. You can appeal it in 5 years or whatever you want to do. But if you don't pass that competency test, then no, you can't drive. Like,
okay.
Taken off you.
Stay there, because Bernie, you're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Bernie? You old crock, you.
I'm fuming. Oh my God, I'm 64. I have another license for 10 years. I've never had an accident. I've been driving since I was 16.
You haven't got a license for 10 years. Your license only lasts till you're 70.
Well, I'll be 73 when I get my next one.
No.
Oh no, you can reread.
She's confused already at her
age.
At her age, she's confused. It says here, I'm looking at the rules here in Citizens Information. Anyone who applies for a license from 60 to 66, it only lasts till they're 70.
Well, my license goes from something last year to 2032.
Right, okay.
10 years.
Right.
Am I stupid or something?
Well, no. Well, maybe if it's anyone who applies for a license, age 60 to 66, it says your license will expire when you reach 70.
Okay, I can start here down a minute.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so let me get back to the topic anyway. So the point is, should you, according to Eamon, you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car over 70, realistically.
My car license runs out in 32.
Right. Okay.
And I'll be 73.
There you go, Eamon. Eamon should be 73, no test, no nothing. Off she goes.
Well, I'll come knocking and I'll make sure she's competent.
You're not going to what?
You can come out now and see if I'm competent.
I'll come out. We'll do a competency test for you.
You can, yeah. And on God willing, I'll be still competent. I've been driving since I was 16, right? I had my license since I was 27. I have never, thank God, touch wood, ever had an accident. I've seen young people make the most ridiculous mistakes in front of me and drive ahead, and they look in the window at me and go, what? I mean, you have to concentrate when you're driving. It's part and parcel of who you are. Mm-hmm. You don't take a car out on the road and expect it to drive itself yet.
Well, how were you driving at 16? You didn't get your license until you were 20-something.
Because I had treat in those days back in medieval times. You get three provisional license, and and there was also a waiting list, and they gave out free license. There was such a backlog. They were giving out free licenses if you had one provisional
free license. That's, I remember that. They gave there was. But Eamon, you don't remember this, but my mother. I'll give you a great example. My mother has never sat behind the wheel of a car in her life. Now, she's dead now, right? And she never will. But she never sat behind the wheel of a car in her life. Never drove a car, never touched the steering wheel, but she had a full license. Because the government had such a backlog back in the late 70s, wasn't it? I think it was. They gave an amnesty, and anybody who had applied for a license got one. They just gave it to them.
And we're not lying. And we were still driving. And I had nothing wrong with my driving. I have never touched wood. I've never done. I've done some stupid things, maybe myself that I'm annoyed at myself for. But I've driven for my job. I've been a sales rep. I drove all over the country, and so I feel I'm very confident as a driver and practical in my knowledge.
Yeah, I've had one accident in my life, and I was 17. I've just told you about that one, and it wasn't even my fault.
Yeah, and I mean. I'm sorry. That guy at 34, does he know how to drive a boat? Does he know how to park a boat or moor a boat?
I do. I actually do.
Well done. Well, I must set hands up, and I'll tell you, I was 57 when I learned that skill. And I think as an older person, you continue to grow, and you shouldn't be stopped for it. And you learn new things and new skills every day. And just your age should not deter you. I'm sorry.
But you're not going to be stopped. You're going to go and do a test that proves that you still have the common.
If everybody else in the country, I will happily do that. I will happily do that. My neighbours are in their 80s. My father was stopped driving at 85. So I don't see the problem of driving if you're well and safe and healthy and you do what are the legal requirements of you at that age. I think happy days, keep going. It's some of the young people make such a ridiculous. I've seen them. I've watched them with my own eyes. You can't blame everyone young at one point, but you can't blame young people just based on their age. But you're saying old people. But then they should also go for a yearly test as well. Maybe we should have a yearly test for everybody across the board. Everybody have a competency test.
But to be fair, the driving test and the driving theory test now has a lot more different information in it than your test would have had, even your theory test.
I'm sorry, but
it's a lot different.
I'm no disrespect to your age. I have kids your age. Some of you don't adhere to the same rules as we do. You know,
I had a funny incident there a while ago with a girl who was about 27, 28 years of age. I was parked in a shopping centre and she was parked in front of me. There was nothing in front of her. No, other way around. Sorry, I was parked in front of her. There was nothing behind her. She was just parked behind me. So I'm sitting there waiting for my wife, and next minute I start hearing this beeping. And I'm going, who's she beeping at? Like, because I wasn't in her way or anything like that, right? She kept beeping and beeping and beeping. So she got out of the car, knocked on my window and said, can you please move? I said, sorry? She said, can you please move? And I looked back at her car. And I said, why? And she said, because I need to go. And I said, well, just go so. I'm not stopping you. And she said, and then she started crying. And I'm going, what the hell is wrong with this car, right? She started having an emotional breakdown in the middle of the car park. So I got out of the car and I said, are you okay? Is everything all right? I just need to go. And I said, well, why don't you, could you not just like reverse out there, the spot you're in, and just, I don't know how to reverse the car. I swear to God, she didn't know how to reverse the car. I felt so bad then. I moved forward and let her out. I felt so. But I mean, who lets somebody on the road who can't reverse a car?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we have the experience, Niall. I'm sorry. I know at 34 I'm telling you everything, but at 64 I don't know much better. But I still have experience under my belt.
I guarantee you, Eamon, I'm a better driver than you are. It's like saying I have a bigger Mickey than you.
You're not.
You know, I've driven some good cars in my day, Eamon.
Yeah, me too.
What's the fastest speed you've ever driven at?
160.
230. Beat that.
100. Kilometers or miles, guys? Now,
miles per hour. I drove at 230 miles per hour.
Now.
Because
what were you driving? A racing car?
No, I was in Florida and I paid to go. What's those cars called again in Daytona?
I think there's no.
Anyway,
Terminator or something.
I've forgotten the name, but anyway, I have a photograph. Actually, I have a photograph here in the studio. I have it here actually, and I was. Here's it. It's over there. So I had the helmet on, and they have to strap you to the seat and all that, and you just put your foot down on the gas, as they call it, and you don't touch the brake. You go around in circles essentially, but it's it's like the wall kind of thing, so you don't have to turn the steering.
National Irish Road.
NASCAR racing, that's what it was. NASCAR racing.
Well, no, it's not.
It was terrifying.
It's about how you go.
I'm just saying it was terrifying, right? But
what's the fastest you've done on an Irish road, on a national Irish road? What's the fastest you've done? Kilometers?
I'm going to admit this because I've admitted it before on the air because I was actually caught at the time. And the fastest I've driven is 150 miles an hour on an Irish road. And I was caught by the guards at the time. And thankfully the guard was really nice to me and I learnt my lesson. I was young, I was stupid. And it was a very irresponsible thing to do.
There wasn't many straight roads back in the day. Where was that straight road?
That was in a long time ago. It was 30-something years ago, and it was the road from Drogheda to Dublin. It was in Balroddery, near about, that road.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can I point out again, I want to mention that it was an extremely irresponsible thing for me to do. And I know that now. As you get older, Eamon, and it's the truth, because I was a fast driver. I used to drive fast all the time. I used to race motorbikes. But as you get older, you tend to slow down. You genuinely do, and you tend to be more responsible. I would rarely break the speed limit now. Rarely.
Same here.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Eamon, but it sounds like you're breaking it all the time.
I don't. That was years ago. That was back when I was in my 20s. I haven't done.
But you're only 10 years ago. That was only 10 years ago.
It was, yeah. Well, actually, it was only 5 years ago. He's 34. Let's stay there, both of you. Hang on. Billy, how you doing? You're in Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Billy?
How are you keeping?
Yeah, we're comparing penis sizes here, I think. Sorry.
A Dodge Challenger, 150 miles an hour in Boston.
Right. I'm sorry I don't have video here because I would show you the photograph because I have it here in the studio. I have a photograph of me in Daytona. It's the Tom Petty or something raceway or something like that.
That's a racetrack now. This is on a road, 150 miles an hour on the road.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know.
How old are you, Billy?
Old enough to know better now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. But Billy, getting back to older drivers and the question at hand, do you believe the license should be taken off people at a certain cut-off age?
Niall, I'm going to come at this in a different way. When your researcher called me, I thought she was talking about giving the license to 16 or 15-year-olds.
Ah, Jesus, no.
That's what I thought the topic was. But in listening to you there, with truck drivers, every truck driver in this country has to do a CPD, and they need to get a certain amount of points every year. I think once we get the license in this country, there's nothing. There's no continuation training. There's no advanced driver training. You can get your license at 18, and you can never get another bit of instruction from anyone again until the day you come off the road. And I think that's wrong. I think it should be a case that every couple of years you need to be assessed to make sure that you're.
There's a lot of administration work in that. It's look at the problems we have even dishing out driver's licenses. I mean, the 6-month waiting list.
I don't care about the administration. Now, if they're serious about driving in this country, if they're serious about cutting down
But hang on, realistically. But can I say something, right? Realistically, and by the way, I am sorry for your loss for anybody who has lost a loved one on the roads, right? But realistically, 150 to 180 people per year die on the roads in Ireland, right?
Yep.
The majority of those is through careless driving. Drink is involved in some. Speed is involved in some, but generally speaking, it's careless. Speed doesn't kill, by the way. Careless driving kills. Right. So realistically, 150, we'll even say 160 on average. People die every year on the road, right? That's really not a big deal out of 2.2 million lumps of steel milling around the roads on the bad roads we have. It's not that bad.
It's a percentage. It's about what, 1% or less than 1%.
It's not even. It's 0.001%, probably.
So
even one life is too much.
Would you stop out? That's a stupid thing to say now, Eamon. That's like when the politicians said during COVID, let's lock down the country, one life is too much. Unfortunately, sacrifices have to be made. Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, anybody should die on the roads. People should be... Whose phone is that?
That's Bernie's phone.
Not mine.
People should be careful. It's probably Maureen. People should be careful and drive more carefully and try and avoid those 160 deaths. But at some point, Eamon, somebody is going to die. So at some point, two of those pieces of steel, which weigh a ton each, are going to hit each other, and somebody's going to die. So that's just a fact of life, unfortunately. Until we get to a point of perfectly synced autonomous vehicles, we're not going to avoid that situation. So, Bailey, back to what I was saying to you. You're always going to have road deaths. Always.
You're always going to have road deaths, Niall, but what I'm saying here is there are people, and I'm sorry, the lady who was speaking there,
Bernie, she is a lady.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Bernie, I think, said that she got her license by default back in the 70s when they were giving her after.
Yeah, she shouldn't have admitted that, in fairness.
In fairness, Bernie, I know people in that situation as well. I know my grandfather, who's long since died, got his license by virtue of his father having a car and having a license. So there wasn't even a provisional license, let alone a test. It was by the virtue of someone else in the family had a car, so he was eligible to get a license. My grandmother, also who passed away, her license when she got it in the 1990s had everything on it. Every one of those checked at the back, up to the Arctic truck. Now, my grandmother...
My original license had all of those things. And you know what I'm really disappointed with? I used to drive motorbikes. My original license had a bike license on it. And when I renewed it for the new license, they took the bike bit off.
That's right. But I did do the test. Sorry, I didn't clarify that. I did do the test in 1978, and I got it on the first go.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you got it by default, you said.
No, I went in and the man asked, I had to wait so long. Why was I waiting so long for the driving license? Because there was such a waiting list back in the 70s. But I ended up, I failed getting to the when they were giving them out free. Mine was out too long, so I had to actually do the test, which I passed in the first go.
Mind you, I misheard you then.
No, so did I. I thought she cheated her way through it.
No, I didn't. But I know people who did.
Yeah.
So
Billy,
there are plenty of people who did, and it's a case of they were never tested, and in a system where we put in with the tests, they probably should be.
But Billy, I don't inherently disagree with you that there should be some sort of ongoing assessment. But in a country that can't even manage to, operate, an NCT or a driving license without massive, 6-month, waiting list, we're not going to ever do that. We have a small population, small administration.
We were here in the early 2000s with the test backlogs, and what they did at the time was they brought in a third-party company to clear the backlogs. And that's exactly what they should be doing now. But the feckless Aegis who's running the Department of Transport at the moment doesn't seem capable.
Well, in the UK, I know they're moving the driver's licence to a private company in the UK, which is probably what we should do here, because private companies will operate differently than civil servants.
Is it not with a private company through the NDLS, or are they a state body still?
Well, I think they're a state body, aren't they?
I'm not.
Mind you, the NCT is a private company, and yet their backlogs are ridiculous as well. Mind you, they just don't have enough money.
There's talk that they're getting in trouble over that. But there was. You can check me on this now. But there was a case back in the mid 2000s where there was a massive backlog, and that backlog was cleared by bringing in a Spanish company who brought in testers, and they cleared the backlog in a matter of months.
Yeah, well, generally speaking, the private sector are quicker at doing, more efficient at doing these things generally than the public sector. But Billy, in the interim, we have what we have, and let's deal with what we have. Do you believe that, like Eamon says, when you get to a certain age, you just shouldn't be allowed to drive?
I think, Niall, when you get to a certain age, and as I mentioned, my grandmother towards the end, there was no way that woman in her 80s should have been driving. It wasn't, and there was accidents, and there was a case.
Yeah, I know somebody like that. I know a family like that, and the mother keeps driving, even though the family have all warned her not to. She keeps hitting walls and cars, and nothing too serious yet.
More dents put into the car and everything else, and it comes to a point, and I'm a believer that people should be, as long as they're not a danger to themselves or others, they should be allowed to do what they want. But when they get to a point when they're putting other people, or potentially putting other people in danger, then someone needs to step in and kind of go, no, this is. I
mean, Bernie, do you remember that shocking accident there in the UK going back about 5 years ago? A husband and wife, both in their 80s, they had a caravan on the back of the car, and they went up the wrong way up a motorway, head on into a family with a mother, husband, and 2 children or something, all wiped out. You know what I mean?
And then that happens here far too free. Sorry, Bernie. Go ahead.
There has been a lot of tragedies like that here as well, unfortunately, where somebody's been a bit, has done the wrong thing by mistake, and families have been wiped out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it happens all too frequently here as well now, where people do go down the wrong entrance onto a motorway and are driving on the wrong side.
Yeah.
It is scary. I don't know. You have to.
How do you not notice, How do you not notice you're on the wrong side of a motorway? How do you not notice that?
Well, I would say, Niall, that if the person is of an age where motorways weren't that common in this country and thinks they're driving down a 2-way road,
I could understand an American tourist doing it by mistake.
And that's the point I was making, Niall, as well, because when you do driving theory test now, or be it 5-10 years ago, there's a lot of different new things on that compared to when Bernie might have done her test, or people, or even yourself when you would have done your test. There's a lot of different road signs, road markings, different weight limits, different information, all that kind of stuff that people now do know, but other people mightn't know.
But you see, my experience then was we had no power steering. Like, you were literally driving a tractor. We had the rolly up windows and down. We had no buttons to press.
Eamon, when I was a kid, Eamon, this gives you an indication of my age. When I was a kid, my father's car had a handle on the front to start it.
It started, I know, on a Morris Minor.
There was a handle stuck out, the grill in the front of a car. Right? So you had a handle. You used to keep it on the floor in the passenger seat. And then you'd open the door, you'd take out your handle, you'd turn your key, you go to the front of the car, you'd stick the handle into the hole, and then you give it a wind, and the car would start.
I feel like a child.
Do you remember the choke?
The choke, yes. Well, I remember my father's first car, and he was thrilled because he was telling me, this car has an automatic choke. And I went, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a Cortina in the late 1980s, I think it was. It had an automatic choke. See what I mean? Eamon, you don't know what a choke is. On a cold morning, when the cars didn't start very well on a cold morning, the choke was a thing you pulled on the right-hand side of your steering wheel. It was like there was a cable on it, and you'd pull it. And what it would do is allow more petrol into the engine. Yeah. But the problem is, if you pulled it too hard or left it too much and touched the accelerator, you'd flood the engine.
Flood the engine. Oh, yeah. You see, we have more experience, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's outdated, unnecessary, unneeded, and in terms of the environmental impact of that choke.
But you shut up with your environmental impact of your choke.
Even taking
sorry, hang on. Billy, go ahead.
Taking the choke and the environmental impact out, seatbelts. Seatbelts were optional in this.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have one.
Airbags. You know, if you're talking about all the things that are better now, like would you give up your airbags for a choke back in your car or for the seatbelts?
Yeah, I remember at the start, I was such an arsehole. I remember when they brought in where you had to wear a seatbelt, you got to fine. I think I got fined twice because I constantly forget to do it. Nowadays, it's it's completely an unconscious act to get into a car and put your seatbelt on, right? But we were so thick in those days, going, I'm not bleeding wearing a seatbelt. No one's going to force me to wear a seatbelt. Maureen, how you doing? You're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Maureen?
Hi, Niall. Oh, no, that was me beeping earlier. I was turned off now.
Did. That was you, was it?
Yeah, that was me.
I fully feel it was your phone, Maureen. You're a very busy woman.
No, it was my tablet.
Oh, it was your tablet?
Yeah, it turned off now.
All right, so Maureen, tell us,
yeah.
I mean, do you believe that older people should have to do a test?
I think, I was driving, I'm like Bernie now, I started driving 1977, at 17. And I've never crashed either. No, I haven't been driving for about 15 years. I just couldn't afford a car anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to, with Bernie, we didn't have any of this power steering or anything like that,
No.
And I remember the choke.
Yeah.
Do you remember hill starts?
I do remember hill starts, yeah.
I had to put it on top of a hill because it wouldn't start otherwise unless I got the roll down the hill.
Yeah, so at night you'd park your car at the top of a hill just in case.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah.
Eamon, you're getting an education here tonight.
I had a fabulous Renault 12. They were a brilliant car in their day. And the steering lock broke, right? So that had to come off. It was started with the wire.
Hey, sorry, just to let Eamon know. Eamon is now wondering. Sorry, I'm eating a biscuit while I'm talking. Eamon is wondering, what's a steering lock?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I am.
Well, I put the key in the lock, right? Yeah, that's what we called it. With the key broke, right? So we had to take off them.
A crook lock. Do you remember the crook locks?
Yeah. But I was starting it with wires. You stick the wires together and off you went.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we went through. I went through in my day.
Mm.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
In the old days, to stop somebody stealing your car, right? You had this. It was called a crook lock. Billy, do you remember the crook locks?
Oh, Jesus, no, I'm not that old.
Oh, stop. So anyway,
some credit, man.
It had two hooks on it, right? And it went, and you expanded it, right? And then locked it. So you would put it into the steering wheel, put the two hooks into the inside of the steering wheel, expand it, lock it, and it was like a stick that stuck out of it. So if somebody tried to turn the steering, it would hit off the window and you wouldn't be able to steer the car.
I've seen them. But Niall, by the logic that you're putting across here, Fred Flintstone is the best driver that ever was. Just because technology has moved on doesn't mean the people before were better drivers.
I know.
This is like.
But we drove. Myself and Maureen drove. We kind of drove cars under different conditions when it was a lot more difficult. We didn't have power steering.
We could talk about was Senna a better Formula One driver than Lewis Hamilton? Like you're talking, it doesn't compute. What you're talking about now is people of a certain age, if they're capable of continuing to drive. And as I said, once they become a safety issue on the road to other road users, that's when you need to stop them. Whether that's at 70 or whether it's at 90, as soon as they become an issue for other drivers on the road. And
okay. Well, Maureen, how old are you now? How old are you, Maureen? Can I ask you?
I'll be 63 on Saturday.
Right. And do you think your concentration levels are lower now than they were when you were 40?
No, I don't. My concentration levels never dipped now, and that's the truth.
No, well, you're a very intelligent person and you're very competent. I listen to you a lot, so you're a very competent, intelligent person.
I'm 100% functioning as I was in my late 20s, 30s, and that's a fact.
There you go, Eamon. All her bits are functioning, Eamon.
Well, happy birthday, early birthday, Maureen.
Thank you. No, I tell you, look, we're going from one end of the spectrum to the other, I think, when we're coming to discussing ages. 70 is not old by any means. And there are plenty of people at that age driving. They're competent to drive. Now, I know the roads are much different today than when I was driving. Even if I was going back driving now, I tell you what I'm seeing out there today, I'd be hard-pressed to be going too far because I'm watching them. and especially it's more the younger people that I'm watching. They have these big, powerful cars underneath them, forgetting they are driving a machine, and they are driving something that can cause serious damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're as competent as we were, and I would be going back into the days I was driving.
Maureen,
I certainly wouldn't be breaking speed limits.
Well, okay, hang on. Sorry, who's trying to talk to Maureen there?
So sorry, Maureen. Billy here, lads. Like people today who are doing a driving test. And I'm not making any assumptions here, but in your case, I'm sure it was a case you could have signed up to do a driving test without doing any lessons outside the lessons that maybe you did with your parents, and you could have gone and done.
I didn't do lessons. I had a driving instructor.
You had a driving instructor. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And what the point I'm going to make is now, if you want to go and get a license today, as hypothetically as an 18-year-old today, going to get a license, you have to do your driver theory test. You get your provisional license, and you need to do a minimum of 10 lessons with an instructor. Now,
I know.
In theory, is it 12 now? It's gone up then.
12 lessons.
In theory, a lot of people there who are now getting their license, they've got a lot more training, a lot more formal training than someone who maybe back in the 70s got the license because they waited long enough to get the license.
I did 12 lessons with me dad.
Aware of that.
Your dad wasn't a trained driving instructor.
He was a nightmare. Yeah, I swear to God, he was a nightmare to get into a car with. He was always shouting at me.
If that's the case, so we should bring in testing, maybe every 10 years, or you want to reduce it every 5 years when you hit a certain age. But you don't just say that people at 17 over, they should be stopped from driving.
Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan. Call us now on 0818 942 105.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
Stay with me there because you're all great crack. Let me just go to Sherman as well, just bring him into the conversation. Sherman, how are you doing?
Hi, Niall.
Good. Sherman, the idea of people losing their licence over the age of 70, Eamon is the only one here who thinks that maybe that's such a bad idea, but certainly they should have to do a test again anyway. What do you think?
Well, to start off with, I'm 10 years younger than Maureen.
Okay.
So I'm 53.
Okay.
And honestly, if you go on the road, which I do almost every day of my life, 5 days a week to work back and forth, it's not a question of age. It's just an attitude, it's just the attitude of the Irish.
The experience. It's the experience, isn't it, that you have?
It's not just the experience. It's just the attitude, the not taking initiatives when you should. There is the option there to go past the car. People don't. People slowing down.
Okay.
Traffic builds up behind them. So age is a factor. Totally understand. I agree with that.
Stupidity is a factor. Yeah.
Well, major.
Yeah.
I have to say that. I'm sorry, you said it, I didn't. Anyway, but I'll go along with you on this one night.
Yeah, stupidity, yeah.
It's 80% of the factor because 80% of the time, you've got the option to go past the car, right? You're driving down the back roads. There's a tractor in front of you, a farmer going about his business. He's trying to get his things done, okay? And there's an option there to go past. You don't. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, and that builds up traffic. Now, having said that, that's aside. I totally agree.
Can I ask you a question, Sherman? Now, I detect that that's not an Irish accent. Well, there's a bit of an Irish accent in there too, right? So I detect this. You're not originally from Ireland. So where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Nigeria.
Okay, now, Sherman, you can't talk to me about bad drivers in Ireland. From what I heard, and I've a friend of mine who lives in Nigeria, who did live in Nigeria, he said they're all mad over there.
Don't you start. Yeah, we
he said it's like a free-for-all.
It's not just a free-for-all. We take the initiative, right? We do what is right when it's meant to be done.
Right, okay.
You see, that's the difference. Because you're driving along and there's an option there for you to go past the car. You don't. And that builds up traffic. Okay? You've got an option there.
So who are better drivers? Who are better drivers? Nigerian drivers are I'm talking about in Nigeria.
That's not to be hard even. 100% Nigerian drivers.
You think they're better? Are you listening to this, Maureen?
I am.
What? No, Maureen, no, I understand where Maureen is coming from. I totally agree. We're about, 10-year difference between myself and Maureen.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we're the older folks here, which I can understand, I accept that.
Yeah, but by the sound of it, you've been here a long time, by the way. So, because I think there's a bit of an Irish twang in there as well. So, how long are you living here? How long are you living in Ireland?
Over 20 years.
Yeah, I kind of gathered that. Okay. But now I've spoken to a friend of mine who's a taxi driver, and he's from Nigeria, and he said the roads over there are bonkers. He said people are running into each other and everything, and nobody cares. And I said, are they insured? He says, depends. And I said, right.
Well, I agree with him on that one. They might not be insured.
And he said nobody's checking speeding. And he said if you get caught by the police, if you give them 20, whatever it is, the equivalent of €20, they leave you alone. So I said,
but still, that doesn't take away. Listen, I'm over here now. I went through the driving test and all that.
Good man.
I have a license, and thankfully, I wouldn't. If I can recollect, I don't think I have a penalty point or I've been pulled over for.
Yeah, well, I can't admit the same. At one stage, I had 11 points.
What?
I know.
How?
And I'd say you're a great driver now.
No, I am a good driver, right? Okay.
With 11 points.
Shame on you.
I know. I had this is about 7 years ago, and I tell you why I had 11 points, right? Because I drove a Mitsubishi GTO, which was a 3-litre schmancy car, right? And it was like a magnet for the guards. And I had 11 penalty points. And I was constantly being pulled in.
It was the car's fault. It wasn't your fault.
Exactly.
The car had a
now, can I say, in my defence, I don't have any points now, and I haven't got any since, because I got rid of the car.
So the car had it was Kish, it was Knight Rider car. It had its mind of its own.
Yeah.
I
kept no.
But honestly, I want to believe. I want to say this. Okay. The older folks there, we can't get them off. Well, sorry, we shouldn't be taking off the road. I have to include myself. Okay, but what I'm saying is, the point is, at 70, I know someone did mention that earlier on.
Yeah, Eamon. That was Eamon, yeah.
Aptitude test of some sort.
Okay. Well, Maureen, hang on, because I don't have much time. Maureen, would you be okay with having to redo some sort of test when you get to 70?
Oh, yeah, I'd have no problem with that.
Yeah. I'd say beat Eamon.
Maureen, just quickly, you did mention that you've got your reflexes are as good as when you were 25, Maureen. I'm 53, and honestly, my reflexes aren't anywhere close to when I was 20.
Well, they may not be the same, but they're just different. My concentration levels now, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes they're better than they are when I was younger.
Well, absolutely depends on.
Do I sound like I'm kind of 59, nearly 60? Do I? You know what I mean?
About Niall, we're like Niall. We're like a fine. We see us people are like a fine wine.
I am like a fine wine. Yeah, Eamon, I'm like a fine wine. I've matured.
There you go. Yes, we're mature.
To be fair, there's a much higher rate of people in and around 70 who have eyesight problems, mental problems, dementia, that sort of thing.
Well, no, there's no. Well, look, if you're diagnosed with dementia, you can't be driving a car. I mean, that just goes without saying, But look, lads, ladies, Billy, thank you. Eamon, thank you. Maureen, thank you very much. And Sherman, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate you coming on the air.
Good night, everyone.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.